Again and again, I've been asked to comment on things which seem rather unrelated, but which to me seem rather strongly related. In particular, a cluster of three stands out. Multiple personality disorders, this therapy called inner child therapy or something like that, where the basic notion is that the reason why we're so effed up is that we have an inner child that hasn't exactly been taken care of well, and so that's why we're effed up adults. No matter how far back these supposedly traumatic events that shaped us happened in our childhood. And the third thing might look and seem rather unrelated, but the third thing is exorcisms, where the basic notion is that some people get possessed by spirits or demons, and someone is called in, or someone comes up and says that the way to deal with this is an exorcism or forceful removal of the said entity or entities. And let me go about this from what we understand now of multiple personality disorders or having multiple personalities. Let me say it in a reverse way from what we've learned from practice. When you tell a person that he has another personality, the fear that he has another personality is enough and is often, to my understanding, the cause for the splitting of the psyche into that additional personality. It's like you have a thought, but it's not really a big thing, it's not really an issue. But if you dwell on it and put attention on it, and your attention, intention, and energy are in it, yeah, that magnifies that. That's like you assigning a large chunk of your energy, your power, who you are, your consciousness, both the parts you're aware of and not aware of, you're assigning that to an identity that may not have existed before you or someone else made it up, or before you or someone else made it an issue. It's like you have a passing thought that you want burger and fries, but if you let the thought pass, it's just a passing thought. But if you see commercials or someone talks about it, or if you find some way to feel distressed about it, that reinforces the notion, and sooner or later you end up uncontrollably, there you are with a burger and fries which may have been unscheduled or not useful to you actually. So it's kind of like that, where clinically or in other situations you can use the fear that there might be an uncontrollable part of a person. You can use that fear to create that part which doesn't exist. And I think that's particularly effed up. I think that's rather mean and evil. As hypnotherapists, as therapists, as neurolinguistic practitioners, as coaches of any truly transformative sort, what I've seen that's useful is for us to move towards integration and not chopping ourselves into so many small parts. Creating a small fraction of us as an identity is useful maybe for like the hats we put on, like the role of a father, a brother, a mother, a sister, a provider, a worker, a helper, a supporter, a healer, an engineer, like hats we put on. that compartmentalization makes sense. So much so, by example, you're done with work as an engineer, and when you get home, you're no longer an engineer. You're a father. That's helpful for us to compartmentalize our lives like that, but to still understand it's still us. It's the same person. Now, if you incidentally, accidentally, or on purpose instill the opposite, you introduce fear into the equation. Fear breaks that person's psyche, and you create a separate personality. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I think that's really mean and rather evil. For us, if we understand that mechanism, for us to do that on purpose, I don't think that's a good thing. And I have the same issue with this inner child therapy thing. Oh, come on. For most of us, okay, for some of us, there might actually be that issue. I don't know. But it's been my experience that where you have attention, your energy magnifies whatever that is, including identities, which may or may not be true. Where attention is directed, energy goes. Where attention and consciousness are, there flows energy, and you introduce energy into something that may not exist if you withdraw the energy. That's how thoughts are. And you can have a passing thought and then have it magnified by fear and your obsession with that, your reiteration of that. You're introducing more attention and consciousness and energy into that identity, true or not, creates it more and more. And so with this inner child therapy thing, I think most of us are rather functional adults, and we're not as weak as we're told we are, and we're not as injured as we're told we are. And when you're an adult, I think it's a good time to be adulting. And sure, like me, I keep that childlike naivete, but I'm no longer as childish. I'm not as ruled by my infantile tendencies as I used to be. When you're an adult, why not adult? Or why not work on the functional integration of you as an adult? Of you getting your shit together and taking charge, rather than finding some part of you that may or may not be true, or creating that, or fracturing yourself into that, and then giving it attention so that now you have something to blame. But now you've put so much attention and energy into it that you created it, and the other person helped you. Good grief, I don't think that's a good idea at all. So these are just my musings stemming from my best understanding of how these things work, and my one soul new semi sort of superpower, which is I notice when people are thinking. And it helps me see these things. And my invitation for you is to explore these ideas, these concepts, and to explore if what people are pointing out or blaming, to check out if that's for real or not. Because you may have been wasting your time, attention, and energy and other things on something that's not the real deal and not worth paying attention. At least not as much as you have. So I hope this helps. Integration, not fracturing. Make yourself whole. Cheers.